Making coins. It's something we all need to do at some point. When it comes to money making methods, the less requirements the better. What sort of person doesn't admire a good money making method that's accessible for everyone? Today we'll take a look at some money making methods that anyone can do, which will still make a lot of coins. First of all, we start off with a money making method that is emanated from a relatively new update, and that of course is the garden. To get to the garden, when you actually go into your private island, there'll be this NPC called Sam that will spawn somewhere close to spawn. You just have to basically warp to garden, and you're at the garden then. Back in the good old days, prior to the update, even when the Builders 1 was a thing, you still had to slave away manually building all of your farms. Of course, this is not the case anymore. After 5 or 10 minutes of progression within the garden, you can simply just come over to the Sam NPC, which will spawn around here. Do what he tells you to do, and you come over to the desk. And from there, you'll be able to get started with your first plot. It's probably going to be wheat. Now, you might be thinking at that point, it's just farming, and farming isn't that good of a money making method. Granted, in the past month, it has been way better than it is now because the prices were way higher. But because of the garden has had basically like an everlasting effect on the prices of crops because they now have more value. There is now more of a point of actually having the crops. People want to upgrade the holes to use in the garden and so on. So now is still a great time to farm. Like I said, even with the bare minimum with a low farming level, not much gear and just one plot, you could probably still expect to make a couple of million coins per hour, which really isn't too bad. Of course, once you upgrade your plots, you get more crops actually down so you can harvest, you get better gear, you upgrade your gear, you get a higher farming level and so on, you're going to make more coins anyway. But in terms of a literal no setup and just basically a starter method, this is still pretty cracked compared to other things that you could be doing. For instance, if you were simply mining in the gold mines or something like that for an hour, you would not make anywhere close to the amount of coins that you make farming. Now, the next money making method may sound a little bit weird, but you have to hear me out, okay? So, if you've been at the hub, you need to come over to the barn. And from the barn, you need to go straight across up to the other portal up here, and across the desert settlement. From here, there's a lot of sand. Now, I recommend that you craft yourself a golden shovel, which you can do with, obviously, 1 piece of gold and 2 sticks. And enchant this with efficiency 5 at the hub. And then you just do this. You literally just shovel sand. That's it. You can actually make a decent amount of money doing this, surprisingly. Now, if you have done this a little bit and you have any sand collection at all, I advise that if you go over to your accessory bag and you get your personal compactor out, get a piece of enchanted sand and put it in there, because that way you don't have to keep selling to the bazaar or crafting it into enchanted sand manually, and it sort of wastes time. So I'm going to do a quick test. I'm going to mine some sand for about 5 minutes and then we can multiply it and get our hourly rate. Okay, so we've had 5 minutes, we've got 29 enchanted sand. If we go over to the bazaar and sell all this, we're going to make around 47.2k. And we're going to go ahead and times that by 12, which gets us around about 560k. So just from mining sand, you can make around about 560k per hour. Now, I probably wouldn't recommend this as a money making method if you weren't anything other than just starting off. But for 560k an hour with literally just a golden shovel, it's not bad at all. And to be completely honest, the best part about this money making method isn't really the money, it's the XP that you get. And to be honest, to get from mining 1 to 15, this is probably by far the quickest way of doing it. So if you need to get your mining level up and you're thinking, well, we need to go to the mines, I would probably say, not necessarily. I would probably go straight to the desert settlement and start mining some sand. Just a quick reminder, you should subscribe to the channel. There's no reason not to. Become part of the 22%. And while you're here, you should join the Discord server. It's the top link in the description. So the next money making method revolves around the bazaar. And yes, I guess the bazaar is technically no setup. You need Skyblock level 7 to actually be able to access the bazaar. But I'd say majority of people will have Skyblock level 7. So I'm going to say most people are going to be able to do this. First of all, before we look too much into the bazaar, it's always good to know that there is actually a very, very easy way of making money that you can do every single day that literally requires no effort at all. If you come over to the builder and you come over to rocks and bricks and you come over to packed ice, you right click and buy as much as you possibly can. Okay, there's certain items that for some reason you can buy from an NPC and sell to the bazaar for insane profit. The same goes for regular ice. Not usually quite as profitable as packed ice, but it will still make you coins. Come over to the bazaar and you basically just sell and you profit. As you can see on the ice and the packed ice, I spent probably around about 3 or 4k and I sold it all for 30k, well over 30k actually. There's other items within Skyblock that can actually achieve the same profit, but they're the main ones. onto the actual Bazaar itself, there's this thing called Bazaar flipping. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth because there are hundreds and thousands of videos out there on different items that you can Bazaar flip, and it all is fairly straightforward. On the Bazaar, items have a buy price and a sell price. The buy price obviously being the price that you can instantly buy the item for, and the sell price is basically the price when you're buying. You can put an offer up, and if somebody sells an item for that, instantly sells an item for that price, your order gets filled and you get the item for that price. Of course, you can manipulate these prices, considering you can buy obsidian for 3,000 coins and sell it for 3,100 coins. So if you put an order in for 1 obsidian and got it for 3,000 coins, you would then to put a sell offer up and sell it for 3,100 coins, you'd profit for 100 coins. Now, it's not a great profit margin, but there are other items on the Bazaar that you can simply just profit off just from doing that. This is changing all of the time, so I'm not going to give an example, but there's just a lot of items on here, and sometimes the prices go a little bit wacky. On the Bazaar, you can also do craft flips. So for instance, if you were to buy 16 Turbo Cacti 1 books, and you can then craft it into a Turbo Cacti 5 and make ridiculous profit if you sell it like that. Obviously, the issue is getting 16 orders to fill. It shouldn't be too difficult though. Now, another money making method which is very, very similar to Bazaar flipping that I've talked about way too many times to count is auction house flipping. I'm not going to go in depth, but basically on the auction house, you basically just buy items for less and sell them for more. It's as simple as that. If you want a full guide, I'll link it in the description. The great thing about the auction house is there is absolutely no requirement. Of course, as long as you're on a standard profile, you're not on an Iron Man profile, anyone is able to make coins from the auction house. Honestly, I sometimes question my sanity, and quite obviously sometimes I do stupid things, but I can still make coins on the auction house, so anyone can do this. Now, items on the auction house vary in prices for various different reasons. For instance, enchantments, upgrades in terms of hot potato books, dungeon stars, you name it. There are so many different things that contribute towards prices on the auction house that, like I said, it would just take me too long to go through in this video. But of course, the main way you profit is when people list items up for too cheap and then you sell them on. I mean, that is essentially all it is. People either don't know the worth of the item or they just want the item to sell quickly. You buy it either because you have more knowledge of the market or just because you're going to take that risk on of maybe an item selling a little bit longer to sell, but you'll be able to get more coins for it. Now, a sort of hybrid method between the Bazaar and the auction house, I've touched on it earlier, and that's craft flips. You can essentially buy items from the Bazaar or the AH or both to craft into an item to sell on the Bazaar or the auction house. One of my favourites when I'm just starting off on the game will definitely be crafting diamond spreadings. That itself isn't completely no setup. You do need Diamond Collection 6, which isn't too difficult to obtain if you just put some minions down. But you essentially buy jungle leaves from the builder. You then come over to your trade menu, if I can find it because they've moved it, I always forget. Oh yes, on recipe books, that makes sense. Anyway, you can then trade your jungle leaves for vines. You can then craft your vines together with an enchanted diamond from the Bazaar and go over to the auction house and sell them for a pretty decent profit. At the moment, you will spend probably around about 1.5k per diamond spreading, and you can sell them on for 20k each, which is a ridiculous profit margin. I've got to say, you can literally do 14 at a time because that's basically the limit of the auction house, and they sell pretty quickly. I will do that. The last thing I'm going to mention in this video is basically taking advantage of mayors, special mayors, and events. For instance, Marina is currently the mayor, but soon Aatrox will be the mayor. As you can see, if we come over to the election voting box, Aatrox. He's got all perks as well. So what this means is once Aatrox is mayor, there's going to be a ridiculous amount of people doing slayers. Because of course the perks, they give you way more slayer XP, and they also basically give you more chance of getting drops. Slayers are half price. It is the perfect time to do slayers, which means that the actual amount of players that we see doing slayers is going to spike. This means that anything to do with slayers is going to have increased in price. Which means maybe not now, because everyone now knows that Aatrox is going to be the mayor. But if I would have caught onto this previously, right at the start, when Aatrox or when the actual elections first opened up, we could have probably potentially made a lot of coins by investing in like Slayer items, and we could then now sell them on, or wait a couple of days and sell them on, and make some ridiculous profits, because basically the demand would have rose, therefore the actual supply of items in the market will reduce, people are willing to pay more for the items. It makes sense. But I wouldn't say for all of the mayors this happens, because some of them are a little bit useless. But for instance, Paul, if Paul had all of his perks, people would then start doing dungeons more, which would mean that items on the Bazaar to do with dungeons would decrease because there's going to be more in circulation, and other dungeon items will increase in price because more people are going to be playing dungeons. So if you catch on to it and invest in the right things at the right time, you can make a lot of profit. Similarly, say if Paul was the mayor, you could invest in items once Paul is the mayor on the Bazaar. For instance, recombobulators. Recombobulators at the moment are ridiculously high in price at 7.5 million coins. So that's purely because we've not properly had Paul in office for a little bit of time now. So not a lot of people have been doing dungeons. Couple that with less people playing dungeons altogether, it means that prices are increasing. And of course this has no requirement. Your only requirement is coins, and to be completely honest, for some of the items you can invest in are very cheap. But anyway, that just about wraps up today's video. In terms of no setup money making methods, there are definitely quite a few out there that you can do, make coins from, and not really need to have anything going for you in the game. Some of the methods require coins, but they're not too difficult to obtain, considering you can just auction house flip to get the coins that you need in order to do other methods. Anyway, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.